Hey guys, check out Fox and Robin Apparel. Link will be below. They make incredible shorts, have pockets in them, and a built-in liner. They're incredible for working out. Trust me, you need to get yourself a pair.
All right, guys, welcome back to another Footy and Coffee Conversations. I have my coffee here. My guest is not a coffee drinker. What is in your cup?
We got some tea. So we're
What kind of tea?
it was a like a ginger, like turmeric kind of herbal tea. It's pretty good. A bit spicy.
Are you just tea with water, no milk or sugar or anything?
Yeah, I'll throw some lemon in there.
Okay, a little lemon.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yep.
All right, so if you just want to get started, introduce yourself, what position you are on the field, and where you last played.
Sure. So I'm Charlie Lyon. I'm from a suburb of Chicago originally. I grew up there, ended up going to Marquette University, and then played the last 6 years professionally. I'm a goalkeeper, and last was an MLS Pool Goalkeeper, and so we can get into that. But the last team I was with technically was FC Dallas, although I was stationed in Portland. So I've bounced around to 5 or 6 teams in the last couple of years. So there's
and we definitely will get into that, because I think just the probably a lot of people don't even really know about the goalkeeper pool and how that works, and I think it's just a fascinating story. But before that, if you just want to start off by talking a little bit about what did youth soccer look for you? Did you start as a goalie? Were you playing in the field? Kind of what was all of that like for your story?
Sure. Youth soccer for me started and I was reflecting on this as I've just retired and kind of had to look back at the whole journey. It started around.
Which also, yeah, congratulations on that. I mean,
Thank
I know
you.
it's sad and all, but it's also an incredible thing, because it's kind of the check mark to a lot of long, hard work to get to the end.
It is. It's weird to feel like it's culminated and it's come to a close, but it was 23 years, and I was fortunate to have gone that long, and I am reflecting and really seeing how much the game has given me through that journey. So, beyond grateful for the experience. And that experience started around 5 years old, kind of the normal park league rec. I don't even know if there was goals yet. It was just like the flags and everyone runs around and whatever. And so for whatever reason, I liked it and started to play club soccer around like U10, I want to say. And my introduction to club soccer was just a local club team here, Campton United. And I wasn't anything special. I was on the C team first, and I had to start there, but I was thrilled. I was absolutely thrilled. I made a travel team, and then we had to go outside the city to go play games.
Wow.
Like, I thought it was amazing. And so
what position were you playing at that time?
Goalkeeper and striker.
Okay.
So half and half we would split.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah. Nothing in between. So I think I chose the two positions. I didn't have to run too much. No, love for the strikers out there. I'm not trying. You guys obviously put in a lot of work. I'm not trying to dig on you, but so started there, and then it was then eventually made the B team the next year, and then the following year after that finally made the A team, and that was like U12 or so, and that was when I started to play goalkeeper full time, and that was when I really started to realize that's what I wanted to do, and then stayed with them through my freshman year of high school. Had offers to go to other clubs and everything, and that were bigger and better at the time, but I really liked the coaching I was getting, and as a goalkeeper to be busy, to a certain extent was a really good thing for my development. And so
yeah, almost better to play with a worse defense in front of you, right?
100%. So like that was a really good experience. And then as I was in my sophomore year of high school, that was when the academy system started in its first iteration for
now you're dating yourself.
I know it's scary to look back. And so I was part of that first inaugural Chicago Fire Academy team, and so was there for 3 seasons, and then from there got recruited and committed to Marquette.
Now, what was the obviously, yes, you want to play more competitive, and that's why you went to the Fire, but obviously that is for people who probably don't know, Chicago area, you're committing to a lot more driving when you go, instead of you're from St. Charles going to Campton, then to now the Fire facility.
Yeah.
Were you thinking at that point, I enjoy it. I just want the competition. Were you thinking, I want the college scholarship? Were you thinking, I want to be a pro? What was kind of your reasoning behind that decision making to commit to a higher level?
Yeah, and it was a big decision. And we did the drive ahead of time before we made the commitment, because it was like kind of on a good day, like an average day was going to be an hour and 5 minute drive, each way. So that was big, and that was something that we didn't want to do previously, and that's why we didn't go to some of these other clubs. And so we knew that there was going to be some sacrifice required, and so. But with that said, it was kind of all of the above. I wanted to go to college, wanted the scholarship, wanted to go professional. This seemed like the best route, the best training. The competition was good, and it seemed like the avenue for fulfilling these goals that I had.
Right on. So you say you went to Marquette.
Mm-hmm.
What was the decision-making process to end up there?
Yeah, so I ended up getting recruited by them pretty early. I had the fortune of working with Stan Anderson, who was then the goalkeeper coach with them, and he had come across me through my goalkeeper coach with Campton, and that's Doug Cardozi, for any of the Chicagoland guys who know those two names. And they started recruiting me early, and then Stan had seen me at an ODP event, and then they kind of followed me through academy, and so they were kind of pressing. They had some big goals when I was being recruited. Marquette was not a strong program. It was bottom of the Big East. They were, perpetually losing. I think when we were being recruited, maybe in the last 2 seasons, they had like 2 or 3 wins. It was a really tough spot. It's on paper, it doesn't really make sense, but for me, I got there. I liked the culture of what the coaches were trying to do. I liked the team and the guys that were there. And then I also liked the recruiting class that they were trying to put together. And I could see the vision. I could see it happening. It was a bit of a gamble, but once I got there and they had what I wanted academically, I liked the city. It was close to home, so family could, be a part of the experience, but also enough where I'm away and on my own. So there's a lot of factors. I mean, I always thought I was going to end up somewhere sunshine, playing on grass all year. And, next thing I know, I'm in Milwaukee and we're playing on a hardwood, basketball court in the winter. But, it all was valuable.
Looking back, I don't know why I didn't look more at colleges that had warm weather year round. I regret that decision. Marquette, were you the same year then as like John Mao?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I played PDL with him.
Oh, okay, right on. John and I are good friends. We were roommates. Still keep in touch. Yeah, he's a quality human, and he's doing big things right now.
Nice. Yeah. Now I went to Marquette. I have an ex-girlfriend that went there, and I went there in like January one time to visit.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that wind coming off was horrible.
It's rough. We did have a couple of cold days I want to say sophomore year, where the wind chill was so low that they canceled classes as a result. But I will tell you that once you got used to it, inevitably in the spring, like 30 degrees would hit and everyone would be like, it's the summer, like in shorts, in t-shirts, and felt amazing. So we made our way through it.
And your freshman year, you redshirted, correct?
Yeah.
Talk me through that process.
Sure. That was a medical red shirt. I think that if looking back, I would not have done that if I wasn't forced to by circumstance. However, I see that, meaning myself at that age probably wouldn't have wanted to redshirt, but I see the value in it, especially for a goalkeeper. It's not the worst thing to have a year to get into the college game, to take a bunch of classes, and then you can lower your workload for the rest of your career as you're actually in competitive seasons. So I really don't see it as a bad thing. But for myself personally, I had to. I tore my PCL prior to getting to Marquette and had a surgery just to clean up the meniscus that was torn as well. And then got to Marquette and realized that, really couldn't get by without a PCL. And so had a PCL reconstruction 4 days into my first preseason, and was basically back at home, living in my living room on a mattress, and, while the rest of the team's out there training. And so that wasn't exactly how I pictured the start of my college career going.
At that point, are you nervous at all? Maybe even college soccer won't really become a reality because obviously in hindsight, yes, you can see that you played all these games and everything, but in that moment, okay, you're injured. Well, what if they go find another goalie and then you sit the bench and there goes it right there?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's exactly where I was at. I've lost I mean, like, I can't bend my leg, I can't walk. Just getting up to go to the other room is a challenge. I can't feel my leg, and when I do, it's it's painful. And so the thoughts are all, man, like, well, what if I never get back? Like, you hear the stories of so and so did this and they were never the same. And I had that little voice in the back of my head of like, what if you're never going to be the same? And that haunted me. And I think it also drove me to make sure that I wasn't going to let that happen. But you're right. It's easy at the end of the story to look back and say, oh yeah, everything worked out. But in that moment, I didn't know it, and I was terrified that was going to happen, or that whoever was going to play was going to solidify the spot more than I could come in and challenge for. And so, a lot of doubts started to creep in, and it was a difficult place. But I realized that I had to keep my head down, that I couldn't win the starting spot until I learned to walk again or run again or kick the ball again. So I kind of had to refocus and reframe.
Yeah, I find those type of injuries are very humbling, but
Mhm.
one good thing is it makes you refocus on the baby steps and also like taking joy in each of those little milestones where I feel like especially in soccer in your career, like it's always the next thing. You're always looking for the next thing. And so we so often don't enjoy where we're at because we're always worried about where can we go next.
100%. I love that. That's been one of the things I've really reflected on is you have this big goal, right? And it's good to have these goals and this ultimate place you want to end up with, but it's like a marathon. The crossing of the finish line only lasts for a second. And once you've achieved that goal, that all of those hours you spent training, the hours you spent running that marathon, that accomplishment of that goal only lasts for half a second. And no one can take it away for you, sure. But if you didn't enjoy those hours and miles leading up to it, it's a long journey, and no one's going to celebrate the little things for you. Like taking my first step without a brace on, like, to anybody else it doesn't really mean a lot, but to me, that was everything. It meant like I didn't have to wear this thing anymore. And so you're right, you got to celebrate the little things, because no one else is going to do it for you.
Yeah, and after like the second week of an injury, most people don't even care, text or ask you how you're doing anyway. So
Yeah.
you really
Yeah.
got to take it upon yourself.
Yeah, the new
Um,
injury shine is worn off, and they're like, it's old news.
you get maximum 2 Instagram posts of high likeage, and then after that, no one
Yeah.
cares.
Everyone's like, old news, move on.
So then talk a little bit about your career at Marquette. Obviously, you excelled. Was it just a straight trajectory? Did you have ups and downs? What was it like for you?
Yeah, it wasn't a straight trajectory. I got into Marquette, and so like that first year was just all rehab and getting back onto the field. And then that summer I was cleared for full training, which I was allowed to do with the Fire Super 20s and PDL. However, they didn't clear me for games with all of the investment they just put into that surgery, into that rehab, that they said no games until you were back in Marquette and completed a season. So unfortunately that left me at, kind of coming in with almost 2 years of being away from a game. And so redshirt freshman, my sophomore year, I didn't win the starting spot. David Check was playing and playing very well. And then, but the team was struggling, and 4 games into the season, I get my opportunity and absolutely blow it. It was a horrible first game. Unfortunately, it involved, I had a play where a ball played over the top. Mao was running it down, who we had mentioned earlier. I miscommunicated with him. I'm saying I'm going to run onto it. He thinks that he's going to pass it back to me. He passes it back. I whiff at it, and they have an open goal. That's the first goal I conceded in my college career. So for everybody else out there that's like, oh, it's going to be great, and no, it was awful. I conceded another goal in the second half. We lose to Wright State. we get absolutely chewed out, and like I'm like, well, I'm never playing again, so I'll see my college career goodbye. They're definitely cutting my scholarship after that. And so made it through the rest of the year, got into 2 more games in the second half. I got in against Seton Hall. We were up 3-0. So, and Czech was very gracious about that. I mean, it wasn't his decision, but he was gracious. He had a shutout, and he didn't say anything about it to me or to the coaches. He understood the work. And then we were down 3-0 to UConn, and I got to get in against them, which was a lot of fun. And then from there.
Wait, real quick, just going back to the mistake on the first game.
Sure.
For me, those ones, I played center back, and so you make some of those mistakes, and it's bad. Like, in the moment, it's not like, oh, the guy did something great. Like, you just know it's bad. And then after the game, like, the whole day, the whole night, all I can think of is like, oh, this is going to be terrible to have to watch with the team in film. Like, there's nothing you can defend it. Like, and then they'll play it 20 times in a row for you to just stare at it.
It's the worst feeling. Like, you just sit there and you want to curl up in a ball and just be anywhere else from where you're at that moment.
It's always some striker looking back at you like, really? You're like,
yeah,
shut up. You're out there you missed 10 shots and we don't show those.
Yeah, they shank it and it's 20 yards over and fading 30 to the right, and no one said anything about that. But so for anybody that goes through that, for me, I mean, I took a lot of it really personally as a player, and I think it was because I had a lot of my identity wrapped up in, like, it wasn't just, it wasn't Charlie and the goalkeeper, it was Charlie the goalkeeper, Charlie the soccer player. And so, like, me failing, it was like, it was me as a person failing. And so I've had to work to separate those two, that, that you are a person and play is what you do, but it doesn't make you any less of a person or whatever. You make mistakes. So be able to go in there and know that it is just one part of you, and that you can take ownership for what you did. And some of it's out of your control. Like, say if that, the ball kind of skipped up on me and I was, say if it had made a little bit better contact, it goes out for a throw in and we all wipe our brow and go, that could have been bad. But, so there's some in your control, there's some not. Take responsibility for what you can do. And then ultimately you gotta find a way to move on, because if you live in that moment, you're only hurting yourself and the team going forward. Everybody wants you to play well, so you gotta let it go, learn and move on. But the film's never fun.
So then now we're in your redshirt sophomore year. You earn the starting spot at that point.
Oh no, so that's redshirt junior year. So
sorry,
David,
I meant junior year. Sorry.
Yeah, David Czech, unfortunately, that's my junior year, redshirt sophomore year. Yeah, no, you had it right. He unfortunately he had to retire from playing from some injuries, some persistent bursitis that was popping up. And so I didn't really have the opportunity to fully compete with him and earn the spot from him, which I think he would have been a really challenging adversary. Like, I think that spring season after that first season, so that's the spring of my redshirt freshman year, was when I grew the most, when it was just Czech and I in training and we were just battling back and forth. And so I wish I kind of know how that played out. I think he would have been a really, really tough challenge to earn the spot from. And then so that we had 2 freshmen coming in, and so I kind of had the go ahead. It wasn't like full reins that, it was kind of like, you need to step in. We've got these 2 guys coming in, but you've got more experience, so it's yours, but you got to do something with it. And so end up having a really good year that year. We ended up, I believe we got on a run and made it to, I think at one point, like number 2 in the nation. We were doing really well and had a really strong year. It was the first year we got back into the tournament for the men's program for NCAA tournament in a long time. And I want to say we were maybe we were co-league champions or something at that year. I can't remember exactly, but it was a really good year, and like that kind of solidified, like, okay, I'm here, I can play, this is what I'm here to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and seems like you took it at that point and pretty much held it down. I think your goals against average was like 0.88. Like 29 clean sheets, I believe.
Yeah, I did. I think I set a Marquette goalkeeping record with 29. I think that was one more than the previous holder. And it was cool to do that because I tied the record on an alumni game while he was present. So I got
Oh, that's
to
cool.
share that night with him. So yeah, some cool accomplishments, but you know, it really isn't without the group in front of me. You know, it's we had a really good group, and that's really what made those accomplishments possible. Because you look at the goalkeeper ahead of me, Matt Pizdraowski, who's now a really close friend, unbelievable goalkeeper. He did very well overseas in Sweden, and you know, he was absolutely just getting absolutely shelled at Marquette, and you know, not many wins, not many shutouts, horrible goals against average, and you know, and he's still an unbelievable goalkeeper. So definitely fortunate to have the group that I played with.
Yeah, I think any, especially defenders and goalies, understand that completely. Of it's not just yourself, because you can play amazing, but if those guys around you aren't protecting you, no chance you're coming out of that with shutouts.
Yeah. For you as a center back, like if the center mids aren't helping you and the wingers aren't tracking back, like it's a long game. So even the strikers to start putting the pressure and shaping your defensive block is so important. So that is one of the beautiful things about soccer is how much it does rely on the team aspect.
Yeah. So what point of college soccer did professional soccer not just be, oh, this is a dream in the future, but looks like, okay, this is a reality of something that could happen? When was kind of that switch in your career?
I think, I definitely had those doubts. It was more so like, can I even just play at college soccer after the injury? And so once I got healthy and then had that first successful season, which was my redshirt sophomore year, that was kind of when I was like, oh, this could be something, but I know that I still have 2 more seasons that I have to perform. Guys go Generation Adidas, so I knew that maybe I had an absolute lights out year the next year I could be out of there, but I did after that injury, I really was committed to getting a degree and wanting to walk away with that and from the experience. So I was like, okay, 2 more seasons, really have to perform and make it happen. And I was at the time, still homegrown with Chicago. And so coming back in the summer and trying to train with them and getting a taste of that level. And so the seeds were started to be planted after that first good season, and then it was really the following year when I got Big East Goalkeeper of the Year was really when I was like, okay, like I'm definitely on people's maps now. I need to have 1 more good season, and then we'll go from there.
And then talk me through the process of the draft and entering your professional career.
Yeah, so I had a little bit of an interesting route in. So the goalkeeper coach at Chicago at the time, Aaron Hyde, who's now the men's national team goalkeeper coach, he was not interested in having me come in to Chicago. So, and that was known pretty early on.
That's a very polite way of saying it, by the way.
Yeah. He didn't, he's English and a little bit more blunt. I think he could have a little bit more colorful words of what he thought of me as a player at the time. And we had a couple of disagreements or just didn't see eye to eye on things. But so ultimately, going into my fifth year, my redshirt senior year, I had to get my rights released from Chicago. And I went and I trained with Seattle and I trained with Columbus. And so they were like, well, that, this effectively ends things for you here. I'm like, yeah, gladly, because you guys don't want me. And so I'm going to go try and take fate in my own hands and go somewhere else. So I had a good showing with both of them. I didn't do anything amazing, but I also showed that I could hang. And so that was kind of just, I needed to plant some seeds going into it. And then my last season we had a shutout streak and we held it. And then we set the 10th longest shutout streak. I don't know if it still holds because that's the first one off the list. So if some things happened in the meantime, maybe I'm not on the list anymore, but so I had a pretty good year, but I ended up picking up a sports hernia, and the end of the season was not really as strong as I could have had as years past. And so was kind of in this place of not knowing if I was going to keep playing. I was so banged up, I couldn't even sit up out of bed. I had to pull myself and sit up. So everything was kind of called into question at this point. I was burnt out, could hardly move. and was like, I'm on the doorstep to the one thing I've wanted my entire life, and I don't know if I can do it. So just started doing one thing at a time, started working with a physical therapist, really just trying to get to the point where I knew I wasn't going to be fully good to go, but just to the point where I could make it through training, you know? And so we got to that point, and going into the first 2 rounds, I didn't think I was going to get drafted that high, but I was paying attention to it. And then, you know, I forgot what Columbus did. And then I see Seattle drafts Tyler Miller. Oh no, sorry. Prior to the draft, Seattle had asked what I was doing. And I'm like, oh, I don't have any plans yet. And they're like, well, do you want to commit to preseason with us? I said, yes. So I started listening to the draft, and then they draft Tyler, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, like I'm not going to, and you know, there's no way, like they are, you know, we're similar, like there's no way they're going to take me. But it was the first year of S2, so there was still some opportunity. And then Tyler announces he's going to Germany. So I'm like, okay, great. This is good. I got to go in, you know, in all honesty, kind of exaggerate on my entry physical about how bad my physical symptoms are. I'm taking strong anti-inflammatories and pain meds, and like doing 30-40 minutes of prep just to get on the field, and another hour after to take care of it. Make it through preseason, kind of out at each stage. It was kind of a week in, and then they kind of kept cutting players, and I just kept making it to the next stage. They'd bring new goalkeepers in, and I kept outlasting them. And then it was, you know, season's about to start, and it's like, hey, you know, like we want to sign you, and
you're still here, might as well sign you, right?
Yeah. So and they were waiting on the CBA at the time, and so that kind of delayed things. But yeah, I had outlasted, and they saw enough of potential in me, and they signed me, and I got ahead of myself. Prior to that, in the 4th round, they did still have a draft pick left, so they used it on me because they didn't, you know, I guess they wanted to ensure that they had me for preseason. So it wasn't like drafted in this really big thing, although I still was very proud of that, to have my name come across the draft ticker, but I kind of knew I was going in there already, and just was going to have to grind it out.
Now, what's that like, that first preseason? Because you go in, obviously there's a step between college and the MLS, but I think another thing besides just the skill level is when you're in college, you start to get comfortable. It's the same locker room, and you're the senior, and there's only people younger than you, especially if you redshirt. And then you go into the MLS locker room, and it's guys that are providing for their families, and some of them have 35 years old, 30 years old, whatever. And now you're one of the youngest and coming straight from college. So I feel like it's just not just the on field, but the like headspace is much different at that level.
It is. And yeah, I mean, it's in a certain sense, it's terrifying. It's this huge jump, you know, and to go to Seattle, they're a historic club. The fan base was incredible, you know, showing up to the first day of preseason and 200 plus people out there chanting and signs and, you know, everything. And so it's intimidating. And then stepping on the field, and you know, you're playing against Clint Dempsey and Obafemi Martins, and in my case for strikers, you know, and so fortunately having been in there, and I was at least a little bit familiar from the summer prior to that, you know, me going into preseason with them. But yeah, it's something different when you're playing against guys, and, you know, I'm walking in and it's Brad Evans and Chad Marshall and Zach Scott and Stephen Fry and Troy Perkins. It's like all these guys that I've watched and looked up to and seen, you know, play for national teams or internationally. And yeah, there's like a different weight to it, and you're kind of caught off guard, you know, just by the sheer, I don't know, just the force that everything is kind of presented with.
What's it like in the locker room with guys like that? I mean, because as you said, like you grow up, you watch those guys, everyone knows them, and then now you're in like the locker room. Are they just like, are you just normal with them, or are you just like, I'm not gonna talk unless you talk to me. I don't want to make you angry, or.
Yeah, no, I from having been around Chicago's locker room in the summer, like I knew it was really important. Go around, introduce yourself, shake everybody's hands, and, you know, when you get in there, look them in the eye, you know, let them know that, you know, that you're not just like this timid, you know, college kid that doesn't feel like he deserves to be there. but I also wasn't going to be trying to hop into jokes and like, being a part of the group when I knew I wasn't. And so I kind of was just trying to know my role of, be a part of the group, be able to be a human being with them, right? First and foremost, but then also not overstep any bounds. But fortunately, it was a great locker room, a lot of really good guys, um, someone, like Brad Evans doesn't need to go out of his way to go help a unsigned rookie, but he'll talk to anybody and, make you feel comfortable. And so, I was fortunate to have guys like that. And then, the goalkeeper group was fantastic. Steph and Troy, really looked out for me. And so, fortunately I wasn't, I'm sure there are some horror stories of being on trial. I didn't, for the most part, experience any of those.
Maybe, and I don't know, maybe it is, I don't know goalies, but maybe it is easier with goalies in the sense that you have your own like smaller subgroup inside of the whole group, which maybe helps a little bit more.
Yeah,
I don't know.
You know that you have your group, your guys to call on and ask questions to, like, about what are we doing and how do we do it here and this and that. However, it also depends on those guys because they don't want you don't want
Truth, yeah.
fresh blood coming in taking their spot. So it's a fine balance, and so everyone kind of like works it out. And to be honest, I think some of the older guys kind of feel out where the younger guys are of like how much of a threat they are before they really open up. But fortunately for Steph and Troy, they had so much experience and things going for them that they were, regardless, they were class and they were going to be helpful, no matter what. So
yeah, I always think of like, first year Tim Howard comes back to the MLS, you have some rookie there, something as a goalie, like training with them. And, how do you ask for help from like, hey, Timmy, do you know where the bathroom is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I feel like I wouldn't want to bother him with anything.
Yeah. There certainly is that. There certainly is that feeling. But then at a certain point too, like for me, I realized like it's always important if you're unsigned and you're a rookie or whatever, you got to be first out to the field. You got to be helping with stuff. So at a certain point, I'm asking Steph like, hey, like what time are you going out? And then like figuring out, okay, I need to go out a little bit earlier than Steph. And so, at some point you got to be brave enough just to ask those questions so that you don't mess up and put yourself in a bad situation.
100%. How does your time in Seattle go?
It was good. I really enjoyed it, to be honest. At first, it was a struggle just trying to get to the level. And then Tom Dutra, who I have, the utmost respect for as a goalkeeper coach there, he really helped rework my game that year. And so oftentimes it felt like it was getting worse before it was getting better because we were changing so much. And then I had always been a little bit more muscular than I was as a pro, and so from college, and so we were working on slimming down. So I'm cutting weight, I'm changing my game, I'm adapting to the pro game, and like, man, some of those days were hard, because it just felt like I don't belong here at all, and however, Tommy was he was demanding, he was hard, and he had high expectations, but he always brought it back in of like, look, like I believe that this is what you're capable of doing. And he goes, this is why I'm asking this of you, And so I really respected that. And that is what got me on board. But as the contract stood, I was on the reserve minimum contract, and that was a semi-guaranteed contract. So I kind of felt like, so I could have been cut at any point up to July 7th. So once that July 7th rolled around, I finally felt like, okay, take a sigh of relief. I'm going to be here at least through the end of the year, and not that I took my foot off the gas, but it was a little bit of that mental thing of like, maybe my mistakes in training don't weigh so heavily on me as they did prior to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard to live with that everyday possibility of being called in and being like, you're gone.
Yeah. That was tough. And because I you don't actually know how things work in your first year as a pro and how to gauge how you're doing and all of that. Fortunately for myself, again, talk about the first year of the academy in my career, and then I was in the first year of the USL introduction to a lot of these MLS teams. So I was part of the inaugural Sounders 2 group, and so for a number 3 to then be thrown into, I don't know, I think I had 34 games my first year as a pro, like it's unheard of. And so I was put in a really good position to kind of start showcasing some of the things I could do in a game, and some of them didn't go so well either. But at least the club had that to see for me, and not just training, but they could see game performances as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So eventually time with Seattle comes to an end.
Yeah.
What are you thinking at that point? Have you considered maybe I try Europe, maybe I just stay in the US? What kind of your thought process to the next team?
Yeah, I had the goal had always been to end up in Europe at some point, and so I really was looking at that. And I had had some connections through Marquette, and how Matt Pizdrasky ended up over there, and so agent was looking at, for whatever reason the Scandinavian teams will bring over Americans and American goalkeepers, and so I was definitely open to that, and then just was also really did want to have some MLS games, and so was trying to stay in that environment too. So really just trying to keep everything open. And I was in Seattle for 2 years, and then after that first season, I get invited to preseason with Minnesota United in their first year as an MLS team, and that was a tough preseason. And then ultimately they brought in Patrick McLean in the Kevin Molino deal, and so that kind of ended my time there. I'd spent 2 weeks with them, and then however, in the background, Orange County was in the works. Logan Paws had worked with my agent as well, and so we had been keeping communication open, and so that's ultimately, he knew I needed to check this out, but like they wanted to have the door open for me there, and so fortunately I kind of had that in my back pocket, wrapped up with Minnesota, and got to Orange County as soon as I could.
How'd you like it there? That's a big difference than Milwaukee.
Yeah, it is, and it's a big difference from Seattle too.
And Seattle. And St. Charles.
And St. Charles. No, I've been very fortunate to be on the West Coast my whole career. I absolutely love it out there. It's a place, I love Southern California. I love the Pacific Northwest. Those are the markets I wanted to be in, and somehow I landed there. So really grateful for it. I liked the sunshine in Southern California. I liked showing up and knowing that it was going to be perfect training conditions. Summer got a bit hot. I don't enjoy the heat quite as much, but it was good. I mean, again though, Orange County wasn't what it was, what they are now. And when I joined them, they had just rebranded from OC Blues. They hadn't had the stadium built. We essentially just showed up to training at the park and had our own gear. We didn't have a locker room. Like, we did all of our prehab like on the sidewalk, and then we trained and then took our gear home, did laundry, and showed up the next day. We got the stadium, the championship stadium at the Great Park later in the year, and we could use the locker rooms, but it wasn't like you kept your stuff there. We were still doing our own laundry and all that kind of stuff. So it's a big change from Seattle when you're getting, extra boots and your kit's taken care of every day, and and you have a bigger staff, and so it was an adjustment. However, it was a good group of people, and so we were all in it together, and really trying to make the most of it.
Yeah. How did the on field go for you that year?
It was good. It was the best year of my career playing wise. I really kind of had a lights out year, and so I think that's what put me on the map for consideration with LAFC, and that's ultimately why I went down. Why Orange County was so appealing was the connection to LAFC in the following year. Like, I knew that was something I wanted to be a part of, and so was fortunate to have had the year that I had with Orange County, and that kind of at least set me up for a trial with LAFC. And so just to throw this out there, I've talked about it on a couple other podcasts, but Tyler Miller, who's now with Minnesota, and I hope he's healing well from his surgery. He was kind of the thorn in my side my whole career. I could never quite beat him out. He played for Northwestern, and he was in goal. They knocked us out of the first NCAA tournament berth. He was playing with me in Chicago at the PDL team. The goalkeeper coach liked him more, so he kind of chased me out of Chicago. I run to Seattle hoping for the opportunity to get away, and they draft him. And then so I spend time with him there. I go to Orange County, trying to get to LAFC, trying to get away from Tyler. They bring him in. So I never quite cleared getting past Tyler, and so now I'll be following his career and living vicariously through his accomplishments.
And just know that you would be wherever he is at the same time,
Yeah,
right?
no, he's been a great teammate. I enjoyed working with him and want nothing but the best for him. And he certainly has some good qualities, and he certainly had the mindset to step into that role. Really kind of being first year as a starter with LAFC and taking on that pressure with an expansion team. So I thought he did very well at his time there, and I hope he does well with Minnesota.
Yeah. How was it with LAFC? Obviously, it's a new club. I think there's some benefits in a way. There's a lot of excitement, but also I think it's a struggle because there's not a culture set in stone. There's a lot of just trying to figure things out, what the routine of that organization is. So I think that can be difficult as a player as well to get into that routine.
Yeah. Well, you're right. They did have some hurdles, but I think that as far as expansion sides go, obviously Atlanta kind of sets the standard, and Bob Bradley's original Chicago Fire with winning the MLS Cup in their first years and all of that. But the way that LAFC went about it was really stellar in all regards. They had a really clear vision. The ownership and the front office and everybody involved really had a clear direction that they were taking the club, and they had this culture and this brand. And then that was really, I think they made a statement with the hiring of Bob Bradley, and then subsequently Carlos Vela and Diego Rossi. It was like, we're here, like we mean business. And they worked really hard on the ground to get the supporters section going, and they had a great relationship with them, and they were involved in the designing of the supporters stand, in the bar behind the supporters stand. They were flying the heads of the supporters group over to Dortmund and starting that partnership, and really getting a chance to experience what a top level supporters section looks like. And so we walk into our home opener, and it just chills go down your spine, because it is deafening. Like there's excitement, there's energy, and I mean the city was all on board, like a full spread in the LA Times. And so it was a lot of fun. It was I didn't really get a lot of playing time. I got half of a friendly, but it was one of the more fun years of my career, just the overall energy behind the club and what they were trying to do.
Yeah, no, from the outside, everything about it seems very high energy in an exciting way, which makes it so much more enjoyable to come and work when that's the atmosphere behind it than supporters not caring or whatever.
Yeah.
So we touched on it before, but just getting into it more, talking about you were a MLS Pool Goalkeeper. Talk me through what that means for our listeners, and then also kind of how you got selected for that, how that happens.
Sure. It's one of the stranger contracts in pro sports. The pool player contract is a utility goalkeeper role for the league as a whole, meaning I'm signed to the league, but I can play for any team at any point if an injury or other circumstance arises. And so with being a pool player, you're stationed in one city, one club for the year, but at any point you can be called away and join another team. And you really don't know how long that could be. You could be coming in for a weekend, or you could be spending the remainder of your year with this club. And so it's a pretty unique experience. As far as how I got it, I was coming off of my season with LAFC and went into preseason with Toronto, and that didn't come through. They were looking at Quentin Westberg, and I wasn't of the same caliber or going to compete in the same way as Quentin was and did. And so they once his deal went through, they let me go. I came back to the Midwest, didn't know what I was going to do, was talking with Greenville Triumph in League One, and then ultimately just decided, I couldn't make that work for myself personally. And so I was starting to look over the edge of, the abyss of retirement and stepping away from the game. And then all of a sudden get a call from my agent. Portland had reached out and wanted to see if we could do something for T2. And, but we weren't able to come to terms. And then they pick up a couple of injuries in preseason, and they're like, okay, we're applying for, the pool. And because of being out there with Seattle too, and then Aiden Brown, who's now with Chicago, who was with the Timbers first team and then with Timbers 2 while I was there, knew of me. And so they wanted to bring me in, and I was in pretty shortly after that conversation. I want to say like maybe even a week later, and, just getting rolling again. And so that's how I got into it.
Yeah. So any team can call. They have goalies hurt. They need you. Obviously, it was created before a lot of teams had affiliates with lower level teams to bring up goalies, but still a part of it. What was how many times did you get called up throughout that pool time by other teams?
So my first year was just once to the Philadelphia Union. It was funny. I was getting ready for a 2-day weekend, a rare 2-day weekend that you get in pro soccer. You rarely get 2 days in a row. And so I was, had plans, was going to go do this and that. And then I get a call. And even Aiden was joking. He's like, oh, hopefully like nothing comes up, just like, whatever, just a little joke. And next thing you know, I'm getting a call later that day, like, hey, double injury in Philly, have your bags ready. We'll let you know when your flight is. So, fly out the next day. Don't know how long I'm going to be in Philly because it's a pulled hamstring and a pulled oblique from Andre Blake and Matt Freese, respectively. And so, it ended up only being 2 weeks all in all. And then I almost went back in with them after, a little bit touch and go with one of them. But that was the first year. Really enjoyed that experience. Again, another outstanding locker room, great individuals. They welcomed me in with open arms, and really enjoyed that. And then this last year, though, is where it got interesting. I was in preseason with New York City prior to the start of the season. The sporting director there didn't want to sign a fourth goalkeeper. And so, I had done well. They wanted me, but that was kind of it. And so come back to Portland and trying to figure out, and again, looking over the edge of like, okay, this is probably it, and, nothing else comes through USL, nothing's really there overseas. And then the coronavirus hits. And so it's just like, all right, moving on. I actually started applying for essential jobs and, wasn't getting anything at the grocery stores, and ended up looking into logging because that was still essential and it was local to, it seemed like something fun to do, and joined a logging company. I was kind of on trial, so to say. I was a part of their lake salvage team. We were cleaning up a reservoir, and then I was going to jump on a rigging crew after. And then 6 weeks later, the MLS resumes, and just with the uncertainty of coronavirus, the amount of time that guys have had off, they had petitioned for, Portland petitioned again for pool player, and the league was like, yeah, for sure, it'll be easy in the tournament. Get to the tournament. First day showing up to travel, I then find out I'm going to be with New York City for the remainder of the tournament. So I'm flying in with Portland, going to join New York City.
All right, see you guys.
Yeah, see you guys. It's been fun. So joined New York City because one of their goalkeepers didn't travel. And then from New York City, Kansas City needed me. They had one of their goalkeepers had gotten sick, and then Tim Melia got a red card. And so next thing you know, I'm on the bench for their game against Colorado, and then was with them for a little bit longer. And then I was supposed to join Vancouver, but with the international visa clearance situation, I wasn't able to join them. So Vancouver had one goalkeeper on the roster at one point. And so that was kind of a strange situation that came up. And then once the tournament ended, all the teams went back to market, and then I ended up with FC Dallas. Similar thing. They released Jesse and had an injury, and so I hop in until their new goalkeeper signing from, I think, Brazil arrived and was cleared. So that was the last club I was with, and then after that, they decided that the pool player position was untenable in this, in this situation with the virus and keeping teams safe and testing protocols and all of that. And it was a lot of money. They had to fly me in on a private jet to keep me away from people, so I don't think they wanted to do that. So so after that, I mean, that was the end of the journey for me. I had a couple of months to do some soul searching, and I drove up and down the West Coast, surfing, mountain biking, and kind of trying to get clear on what I wanted to do in life, whether it was keep playing or move on. And so that's kind of been my journey through the last 2 years as a pool player, and then a little bit of stepping away from the game.
What ultimately was like the deciding factor that you knew you were ready to step away?
I think it was just the way I feel my relationship to the game had changed. It wasn't quite the same as when I was younger, and that same joy and spark that I felt, and it was more of a job, and it felt, it was kind of, there was plenty that I feel that I left on the table that I wanted to do. However, I feel like I got so much out of the experience, and it was like, what more do I really need to do for the level that I'm currently enjoying what I'm doing? And so for me, it was kind of wanting to explore something else and really get to know what else it is I want to do in this world. And then on top of that, I have interests that, I can't really participate in as a pro player. Mountain biking, skateboarding, surfing, snowboarding, like all that stuff that I haven't done my whole life. So it was a bit of just wanting to step into enjoying some other aspects of life. And so I think that's kind of what initially got me to go in that direction.
Yeah, no, I understand. I mean, there's a lot to this world besides what's just between the lines, as fun as it is there. I had one question about the pool play. In terms of, you go to these different teams, how much gear are you able to get if you're constantly coming in? Are you like, I need it all, I need the parka? They're like, it's July, you're like, I need it.
I know, I have quite the collection. So it depends on the team, and what they use for their down, like what their rules are. Like Kansas City, they didn't have team issued gear that you had to wear at meals, and so I didn't walk away with much, if anything, from them. Whereas Portland, was the full kit and all of that. But most importantly, I do have jerseys from all the clubs. I do need to reach out to New York City and get one printed, because I wasn't on the bench for any one of those games, so they didn't make me one. But at this point, I need to add that to my collection. So
100%.
but yeah, I've got a few emblems, a few crests across the gear.
I was thinking you must got a very diverse wardrobe.
I do. I've had to give quite a bit of it away.
He's a fair weather fan.
Yeah. See me walking down the street and I've got 3 clubs on, and they're going to be like, who's this guy?
So what do you think is next for your life journey? Obviously the fun stuff of mountain bike and all, but what are you thinking is your next step?
Yeah, I have a degree in biomedical sciences, and so I was originally thinking medical school, and I don't think that that's the direction I want to go. I am interested in psychology and looking at ways of being a therapist at some point, but I'm not able to commit to school just yet. And so I think I'm gonna try and use soccer to get me into the business world and get a hands-on education in that way. It wasn't something I was interested in college, but I am now. And so I'm going to see if the game can provide a little bit more for me, and see what avenues that opens up, and try and get a hands-on business education, and start to just see what it is that I'm interested in life. I feel like there's a broad horizon, and I don't know what it is that I like and what I want to do. And so I gotta kind of jump in and do something that I'm excited about, but jump in and figure it out as I go. And so I would love to get back to the West Coast, Southern California. Sunshine would be great. I love the mountains of the Northwest. So I think that's what I'm trying to do at the moment.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, it's exciting. It's you finally have so many more options and freedom. Because
Yeah.
if you think too, like with when you're an athlete, like you don't have a lot of freedom. It's kind of what club needs a player of your position, and you're stuck going there. And
Hmm.
maybe it's not even the city you want. Like that's all you don't really get many choices. But now you kind of get, hey, you can move anywhere, even if they don't have a soccer team. You could live there if you want.
Yeah, it's exciting to have that freedom, because you're right. You even though the one thing that's nice about the pro lifestyle is the amount of downtime that you have, so you can use it for however you want to spend it. However, as a pro, you're constantly thinking about, well, how is this affecting training? When's the game? When's travel? And so you have to be responsible with what you do with your body and what you consume. And so you're kind of always, even though you're not training, you're always thinking about the game and everything, and how does this relate. And so I am looking forward to experience a little bit of that freedom, and just not feeling quite as owned, in a sense of being bound by the contract. And of course I don't want to show up to whatever job I have next and have my leg in a cast and be on crutches, but at least I have the freedom to go explore some of these activities that I would have ended my career and my contract if I had shown up with a broken ankle from one of these things. So
Exactly. I got two questions left.
yeah.
One's more fun, one's more serious. The first one, the fun one, is now that you are done, retired as a goalkeeper, if you 5 years down the road, you join a men's league, are you going to refuse to play goalie and that you have to be a field player, or would you be okay being in goal?
100%. 100%. I don't know. I think I'll try goalkeeper at one point, but I think I'll be so frustrated that my level is not what it was. And like, and look, like I've spent my whole life playing. I want to score some goals, but if you're going to put me on the field, but the thing is that no one's going to want that, because everyone's looking for a good men's league goalkeeper, and they're going to,
That's the one
you're perfect
position.
for it.
If we
Yeah.
can't get him to play goalie, how are we going to convince anyone to play?
Yeah, so they're gonna have to sweeten the deal for me a little bit. I know some contract negotiations, so they're gonna have to throw a few things in for me.
I mean, I heard maybe a private jet.
Yeah, private, nothing major, just a jet.
And then the more serious one is, now obviously you're retired, so now you really have the full hindsight of your career. But if you could go back and talk to 15-year-old self, you just made the transition from Campton to the Fire Academy, what would be the biggest piece of advice you feel like you would like to give yourself?
Yeah. When I look back, I think it would a lot of it would be not taking the mistakes or criticism or anything so personally, that being a goalkeeper and being a soccer player is not who I am. It was what I did. And my success and my failure in that arena doesn't define me as a person. So not to get too high on the highs and get too low on the lows. And then furthermore, we talk about these things, that there's a lot more in life than just the game. And I think I at times made sacrifices for the sake of saying I made the sacrifice. And so I wish that I had a little bit more to my life than just the game. I could have, granted, being a college athlete, being in biomedical sciences, trying to go pro, trying to be a top level, athlete and student, didn't leave a lot of free time. However, I feel like there was some more of the creative side or some other interests that I really didn't let express. And I think that time away from the game would have been healthy. It's not 24/7. You have to train 4 hours a day. Taking a step back can actually propel you forward when you are recharged, refreshed, and feel energy from something else. So I would say be a little bit more multidimensional, and to separate out uh, who I am versus what I do.
Love that. I love that. Yeah, I think maybe I'd say call it kind of like that work-life balance, and
Hmm.
especially in pro sports and all, we or many people will wear it as kind of a badge of honor of how busy they are with it. And
Mhm.
although it's important to do your job, at the end of the day, like there is other aspects to life. And especially I think, um, that's part of the retirement process too, is learning that your identity can't just be as a soccer player, because you're not
Yeah.
that anymore. And
Yeah.
you can't be introduced to everyone new you meet as, oh, this is so and so, he's a professional goalie. Now
Yeah.
it's what's next. And it's challenging, but I think it's probably one of the healthiest things to have to discover, of who are you off the field. Because I mean, when you play it your whole life, that's what you know since age 3 or 4 or whatever, until you
Yeah.
retire. That's who you are. And it's tough. It's not easy at times. I'm sure you'll experience it, these coming months. Obviously, the
Mhm.
first couple months, it feels good. Your body feels great for the first time, not
Yeah.
diving around. But
Yeah.
then preseason rolls back around and you're not there, and everyone else is there. And for the first time in 23 years, you're not going to preseason. It's like, wait a second.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. There is that excitement around making the decision, but then there's also that part of you that still wants to play. And like, even hearing you talk about preseason and the guys getting out there and training, there is that little bit of like, oh, I should be out there with them, they're not even doing it, but just hearing you say that is like, oh yeah, like preseason, the energy of it, so yeah, it's a challenge, but everybody has to cross this threshold at some point. Like, we're not going to be soccer players, and even if you remain in the game for your whole life, you're not going to be a player. You're going to be a coach, or you're going to be in the front office, or whatever it is. And so, for anybody, whether you're transitioning out of things after high school, after college, after a pro career, it's daunting, but you'll figure it out. So, kind of cross that threshold with courage, and know that you'll be all right on the other side.
Hmm. Yeah, my mom, she has a saying that she says, and and I feel like it pertains to sports as well. But she always says, like, wherever you go on vacation, whatever, always leave one thing you wanted to do. Don't do it. Leave it for next time. It always gives, because then whenever, even if there is never a next time and you never do it, in your mind, there's always that little bit of like happy desire for that thing. And I
Mm,
think that's true with sports too. I think some players stay around too long and they're like, oh, well, I did everything. But then they burn themselves out and they like have just a sour taste. When you
yeah,
have like, you're a little bit like, yes, you're ready to be done, but you're also like, I could go back out and play. It's
yeah,
almost like, yes, it's hard, but it's also a good feeling because you left it in like still a desire to be a goalie, instead of just being so burnt out and sick of it, like you can't even watch the sport on TV.
yeah, yeah. And because the sport has been there and has given so many amazing things, I have dealt with coming to that edge of like wanting nothing to do with it, but slowly, as I get some distance from it, there is that little bit of that, like, oh yeah, this was good. It was this thing that was really positive in my life and has given me a lot. And you're right. I think it's hard to know where that line is, and when you need to walk away. And I think you can only try to feel it out for yourself. But yeah, I think that was the fear, was hanging on too long. And so feels weird to walk away. I'm 28, almost 29. Like, there's still good years as a goalkeeper left, and my body's holding up well. But like you said, there's more to us and there's more to life. So I think that's what I'm going to run into.
100%. Well, man, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to share this. Excited to see, you guys say excited to watch the rest of the journey, but I'm excited to see what you do off the field, because I think that in some ways is more exciting, because obviously when you're a goalie, we kind of know what to expect on the field, but now you have freedom to so many more opportunities of what you can do with your life, which I think is a cool experience as well. So I appreciate you telling your story, the good and the bad, and
Mm.
also just the uniqueness of it being a pool player. I think that's was interesting to hear about as well.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me on, and for giving me a chance to voice my experience. And I certainly get a lot of it, getting these opportunities to really reflect and put these answers together. So I
Mhm.
appreciate it.
All right, man. Have a good day.
You as well.
All right. Bye.